right. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, good. Did you guys have a chance to sign in at the table at the end of the hall and in the room?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I double sign in, but you're going to have to sign in every session you go to today, so just the way it is. We are here today to talk about revising and editing, the exciting world of revising and editing, and to try some different strategies than maybe what you normally do with your students to see, it's the time of year where you get out your STAR packets. And you're like, here's a packet, let's go through revising and editing. Here's a packet, let's go through revising and editing. So what we did is we tried to come up with some strategies that are not just, let's do a packet. So, here we go. I thought that was funny. I just put it in. Okay. Hey. Come on in. Okay, so we are looking at the TEAC, and it's really important, hopefully your specialist has stressed with you guys this year, the importance of looking at the actual wording of your TEAC and not just the TEAC in general and going, oh, this is revising and editing and that's all I need to look at, but actually looking at the word and looking at all the skills that are involved in it. So if you look at 14C, which is our revising and editing question, like a sample question, what's the most effective way to combine sentences 7 and 8? Well, in order to answer this question, students must know and understand sentence structure, comma rules, run-on sentences, and main idea. Right? So it's not just a how do I fix this, it's what skills do my kids need to fix this sentence. Okay, so when we looked at the simulation data and we looked at all the questions that had to do with moving sentences around, adding sentences, moving them, taking away sentences, it was 43% of the 7th grade test, 55% of the 9th grade revising and editing test, and 45% of the 10th grade. So that's a pretty big number. And then when you look at those plus combining sentences and which transitions should you use, it goes up even higher to 64% of the 7th grade, 73% of the 9th grade, and 64% of the 10th grade. So if you're just working on those skills within revising and editing, you're going to make a huge difference in your student scores. And then again, this is on the simulation, the percent of those sentence manipulation questions that were below 70% on the simulation that your students just took, 43% 7th grade, 45% 9th grade, and 45% 10th grade. So that's how many of those questions were below 70% for your kiddos, district-wide.
Which thing they had the biggest problem with? Was it just transitions and... For the district as a whole, mostly it was the actual inserting sentences, taking sentences out, which sentence would be the best. No, we're not talking about just comma rules. We're talking about mostly the revising strategies of like which is the best sentence to add and where do they add it. That kind of question was where they were really the lowest. Okay, so let's look at a 9th grade question. So Danny would like to add the following detail to the second paragraph. So this is one of those questions that the kids really kind of struggled with. And where's the most effective place to insert this sentence? So they've got to go back and look at the paragraph, but it's not just understanding, okay, which sentence fits in best with a paragraph, because they have to understand the main idea of the paragraph. They have to also understand the main idea of the whole essay. There was one question on the simulation, and I forget if it was 9th or 10th grade, that just rearranging the sentence changed what the emphasis was of the sentence. And if they didn't understand the main idea of the paragraph, then they could have chosen something else that was grammatically correct, but it didn't fit in with what the paragraph was actually trying to emphasize. So just keep in mind that it's not just about do they know where to put their commas, do they know a compound or complex sentence, which is part of it. I get that. It is definitely part of it. But we just can't focus only on that because that is not where they are struggling necessarily the most. And then 10th grade, there's a redundant sentence in the third paragraph. Which sentence should be deleted? They normally
do okay. They do a little better on deleting sentences than they do adding sentences. But you still have some students that are struggling with this one as well. And it's not quite as easy as, they'll put a sentence about elephants in the middle of a sentence about doing a marathon. So the kiddos have got to really, really understand the purpose of what they're reading. Okay, so there's 3 different strategies that we're going to look at today. And the first one, hopefully the representative from your team that went to the simulation data meeting has come back and talked to you about number 1 already, which is looking at the revising and editing passages as though they were reading passages. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about using student-written essays to revise and using mentor text to manipulate. Okay, so when you're looking at revising and editing passages like reading passages, probably the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and choose one of those revising and editing passages that is in your bank, right? Because you have some choices of activities to do for the 6 weeks. And if you don't have enough, there are kind of a lot in the Innovative 2 folder for the 6 weeks, just if you wanted to look at them. So choose a current revising and editing passage and remove the numbers before each sentence, which is a pretty quick activity. I did one and it took me like less than 5 minutes. And so then you've got basically a regular reading passage for your students. Sometimes they see those numbers in front of the sentences and they just think, oh, this is just editing. And I know when I used to teach revising and editing, one of the first things I would tell my students is, well, as you're reading it, just circle the mistakes you see. And then just get to the questions, right? So we don't want them to do that, though. Have students annotate. Good morning. And when they are annotating, have them annotate for 2 things. What the author is saying and what the author is doing. Okay, so saying, we're talking about like main idea, right, of what it is in each paragraph, and then what they're doing. What is the purpose behind what's going on in that paragraph or that section of the paper? So those are the 2 things that you should have your kids annotate for. And then you can provide the revising and editing questions that, again, they're already there for you. You don't have to make them up, to the students without answer choices. Okay? So the first time. And you can, if you're thinking, well, but what about adding a sentence? Don't I need to give them the sentences to add? You could just ask them. They want to make this a stronger paragraph. They want to add another detail about this. They want a better topic sentence. And again, if they've annotated for meaning and for purpose, that should be easier for them to do. So give them the questions without the answer choices and see how they do with that. And have students have them work in little groups to come up with the best answer for each question and write it on a sentence strip or just a normal piece of paper if you don't have sentence strips. And then have the students come post give them a piece of tape it up on your board, and then as a class, go through each one and say, does this work? And get them to eliminate answer choice until you're left with 4 answer choices. And then you have you've got a multiple choice question. You have 4 answer choices. You label them A, B, C, or D. You hand out stickies or index cards to your kids or half sheets of paper, and you say, put your name on this, write down the answer, A, B, C, or D, and why. Why do you think that's the best answer? And turn it in on your way out the door. Right? So this is just kind of you start off small groups, you go to whole class discussion, they make an individual decision that they have to justify at the end. So that is one way to look at revising and editing passages that is not just a packet. Do you guys have questions about this one? No? You're good? Okay. Yeah.
So, when you're creating, so it's sort of student-generated multiple choice responses.
Yes.
What if they're nowhere near what the test responses are? What would you do in that situation?
It depends on if they are off, what they come up with is not a good answer. Then, as they're working in groups, you can walk around the room and kind of try and steer them in a direction as they're working. If they come up with answer choices that actually are pretty good, even if they're not the answer choices that the state gave, like if they come up with a topic sentence and it's a good topic sentence for the paragraph, it just wasn't one of those choices, I would just let it go. So, depending on how they're doing with it. All right. All right, so the second strategy is using student essays to revise. So your students have all written multiple essays this year. So take one of the essays that one of your students, or if you don't want to use somebody in your classes and ask one of your colleagues, take an essay and type it up. And it's easiest, obviously, if not every single person on your team has to type up an essay. So maybe you guys, as a team in your PLC, pick an essay or pick 2 essays and get somebody to volunteer and share so that not everybody has to do it. And type it up so that it is, on a page. Leave some spaces so the kids have room to write, and then go through basically the same steps that you just went through with the state passage. Have them annotate for what the author is saying and what the author is doing. And then you can do a couple of things. Either you've already read the essay, and in your PLC you guys can come up with some questions over it. You've got those ready to go. Or you can have your students look at the essay and say, what do you need to do to make this essay better? Right? Do they need a stronger topic sentence? Do they need a better thesis statement? Do they need more details about this? Do they need a better power sentence? And sort of the nice thing about this is, I know as much as we like to kind of teach this writing the same way across the district, having conferenced at lots of different schools, I can tell you that as teachers we tend to call things different things in our classroom, whether it's the power sentence or the, worldly statement or the concluding paragraph, whatever it is that you call it. Then when you're looking at your student essays, you can ask for those specific things that you have asked your students to do in their writing. You can call it what you want to call it. Does that make sense? And so go through and either give them questions or have students in the group create questions. And then you can have the students, if you're doing the student create questions route, you can have them switch questions with another group and have them answer each other's question. So I've done that with students before with a student essay. And they're always fascinated. They're like, somebody wrote this? Somebody at our school wrote this? And sometimes it's nice just to show them a 3, because sometimes the 3s that we get from the state, and the 4s especially, are really intimidating. And we all know you can write a pretty basic essay and get a 3. And so sometimes showing them that makes it a little less intimidating for them to think, and they look at it and say, I could do that. So sometimes just showing them something that their peers have created that isn't quite as intimidating helps with that. Questions about this strategy? No? All right. So the last one is to use a mentor text to manipulate. So choose an article, like a newsletter article or something from the curriculum, or if you already have an article that you guys have been working on, and take the article. It has to be on your computer, obviously something that you can manipulate, and hit enter between every sentence 2 or 3 times so you've got a gap between each sentence. I did that. Again, it took me less than 5 minutes to take an article and separate it by sentences, print it out, make copies, cut it up into sentences. All right, and so then when you've got your article cut up in sentences, there are lots of different things that you can do with these sentences. So you can hand out the sentences for a paragraph, or you could do the entire essay depending on your kids and what level they are. I would not necessarily give an entire essay cut up to your innovative kids. But maybe your pre-AP kids could handle an entire essay. And have students put them in what they think the correct order is. All right, and you've got the article, so you know what the order is. And I will tell you one thing that I really like Newsla for, and that's what I used for this article, is because you guys know on Newsla you can change the difficulty of the article. And so, especially the first time you do this, I found that it's best to start with maybe something that's a little below their reading level to do this activity so that they're not struggling with the reading of it and they can focus on what's going to make this a good essay, to put it in order. So you can do this a couple of ways. You can hold out a sentence when you pass them out, and then go through and hand out the next sentence and say, okay, where would you insert this sentence? You could give them a blank strip of paper and say, this paragraph needs a new detail, write one and put it in where it should go. You can do the same thing with a thesis statement or a topic sentence. And then once the students have it all together, say, okay, if you had to remove one of these sentences, which one would it be and why? And get them to justify why the sentence doesn't fit. And you could either, again, if you have the article on your computer and you can manipulate it, you can add a sentence, right? You could write a sentence that maybe isn't the best, but sort of on topic, that goes in with the paragraph so that you know what you could take out. But honestly, sometimes in those articles, you can take a sentence out and it doesn't change the meaning and everything else is still there. So you don't have to necessarily create your own sentences. And then ask students to write an appropriate transition word, okay, to either start the paragraph or end the paragraph. This works really well, especially if you give them 2 paragraphs at least. Like give them one, have them put it together, give them a second one, have them put it together, and then ask them, if you had to transition from this paragraph to this paragraph, what transition word would you use and why? Because again, transition words, that's one of the places that our kids kind of struggle, is coming up with appropriate transitions between paragraphs. And then you can also, since they've got their sentences right there, you could say, all right, this paragraph really has too many simple sentences or too many just plain compound sentences. Take your second and third sentence and on this sticky note, write how you would combine them. And get the students in groups to work on combining the sentences once they have them out. So we are actually going to try this. I'm sure you could guess by my lovely props here. So if you guys want to get in groups of like 3 or 4, you don't have to scoot all your desks around if you don't want to, but you can turn and get in groups of 3 or 4. And I am going to pass out a group of sentences for you to combine. I hope I mixed them up. And I didn't put them in order. I'm shuffling. The title of the paragraph is in there too, so that'll help you. I don't know who's in what group. Guys. Y'all shuffle your sentences for me. I can't remember if I shuffled them very well the first time. Who's all... You guys working? You got it? Okay. One of the things in your bag is the title of the paragraph.
Is that the bolded one?
Uh-huh. The bolded one is the title of the paragraph.
The SNL? Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll get up. So this is kind of, they're just 7s.
Because that talks about what she wants the police to do. Followed up by the dancer.
Are we finding one that doesn't fit? I think so. No? Oh, it's all fitting?
Everybody think they got it?
I think so. Do you all have the same one?
Uh-huh. Yep, you all have the same article. So I'm going to show you what I started with. So I went to Newsla, and I started with this article, Not Everyone Enjoyed Beyonce's Super Bowl Halftime Show. All right? So it was 2 pages, and I decided that this was too complicated for my students, not y'all. And so I lowered the reading level, and it even changed the title of the article to Some Say Beyonce's Halftime Show Went Too Far. It's less than 2 pages now, so you can see it's shortened it up quite a bit. And so then I went from that and hit enter, right, between all the things and just spaced it out and then used a paper cutter. And it did not take me very long to do this, but I can tell you that if you want this when we're done, not the cut up bag necessarily, but if you want the article and how I've already spaced it out and things like that, I can share this with you and you can have this. So that is not a problem. And if you have a really, really nice specialist, you might ask them to cut some stuff up for you, and that person might. Can't promise you, but they might. Okay, so you guys have the article, which one? Beyonce sang about police mistreatment? Okay, so who wants to read what they have? Who thinks they got it? Don't be shy. All right.
Oh, man. All right. So I'm going to start with the title.
Sure.
Beyonce sang about police mistreatment.
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce sang her new song, Formation. She had a group of dancers with her. Beyonce sang about police mistreatment of black people. She called for end to police killings. Some people said she was being unfair to the police. They said the Super Bowl was no place to be saying things like that. Maybe it made sense, we just didn't think it went anywhere.
The last one?
Yeah.
Aha. Okay. So is that basically what you guys got?
Yeah.
Good, because that's correct. And that last sentence, then, when you're talking to your kids and they say, okay, well, this sentence, it doesn't seem to fit, guess what type of sentence that is?
We called it a bastard sentence.
It is a transition sentence. Well, It is a transition sentence which leads to the next paragraph. So we are going to look at another paragraph. Now, y'all, just do me a favor. Don't mix up your paragraph A strips and your paragraph B strips. So maybe if one person did paragraph A on their desk, maybe somebody else could put the paragraph B on their desk. Yeah, because we're going to look at it as a whole. You can do it. Y'all done? Todd? Y'all done? Jill, y'all done? Give you guys another minute or two to finish up.
So what they did something else with that. That transition.
Tomorrow's one of those kids that I was surprised he never came back to say anything over the years. He had a good thing going. He was also a freshman after.
Okay. I need a different group to volunteer.
No pressure to get it totally right.
Yeah, yeah,
We got it. We won.
yeah. A different group than Todd's group. All right, you guys, okay, what do you think it is?
All right. Sorry.
You're good?
Video goes viral. What they did was not shown on TV. Many people found out about it anyway through photos and a video. It began when two women went up to some of the dancers after the show. The women are named Ronisha Johnson and Rima Emmy Calloway. Both belong to the Black Lives Movement. It was founded after black teen Trayvon Martin was killed. It's been trying to stop the unfair treatment of black people. The video has spread across the internet.
You have one sentence
Was it the video one?
that is not in the correct place.
Was it this one? The last one? That was...
Did you have the same thing?
We had exactly what they had to say what they had.
Is that another bastard sentence?
No. No. Yeah, the video sentence is in the wrong place. So if you have the video sentence at the end of your paragraph, that is not where it goes. Did somebody else have it already somewhere else in the paragraph? Higher up than the last sentence?
We debated with another place in the paragraph.
Come on, Ramon, you can't sweep it.
Yes, you're supposed to be looking at it to change it. Is it what?
What they did was not shown on TV. The video has spread across the internet.
It's not the second one.
Is it the third one?
Second or third?
It is the third. Now, I'm going to give you another sentence to add in to your paragraph somewhere.
So this is the adoptive sentence.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Oh, there you go. And there you go. All right, so y'all figure out where to add in this sentence. Huh?
You ripped this straight out of current events
Yes.
headlines, didn't you?
Yeah, it was an article published on Friday, I think. And that's why I like Newsla so much, is because, I mean, as a teacher, I'd love to have all my materials done and I could reuse them all the time, but when you give the kids a timely article that they know about,
That they're already talking about.
yeah, they get much more into the activity.
Is that an app on the iPad or is it a website?
No, it's a website. Newsella. Am I saying it wrong? I don't know. Yeah. News. Yeah. News and ELA. You guys use it a lot, right? Yeah. Okay. Where do you guys think the extra sentence goes?
After both belong to the Black Lives Matter movement, then the Black Lives Matter movement started in 2015.
You're correct. Good job. Is that where everybody put it? Yay. Okay, so just looking at the fact that you have two paragraphs here, and the paragraphs follow each other in the article. It isn't the first paragraph. I looked at the introductory paragraph and thought about cutting it up, but honestly, it was not the best paragraph, and there were a lot of sentences that I might not have even put in the order they put it in, so I skipped the first paragraph and just did the second and third paragraphs because I thought it worked better for this activity. And you can do the same thing. You don't have to go in the order that they go in. There were two more paragraphs in this article, so I could have very easily
had C and D as well as A and B. I could have handed every group in the classroom a different paragraph so they didn't have the same one. So there definitely are a lot of different things that you can do.
Well, if you keep it all, I'm just thinking, if you keep it all, everybody's doing the same one, then you can easily tie in, what do we say, we're moving away from Kahoot because the kids are sick of it. But if we could come up with some other sort of competition thing where we can watch it in real time and the kids can just make a competition. So.
Yeah, definitely. You can easily time it, and the first group to get done, raise your hand and go over and check it. And if they have a mistake, sorry, you're not done, and look at the next group. It would definitely be an easy thing to make it a competition for them. And you're right, they love competing against each other. So that's good. What else? Just thinking off the top of your head, what else do you think you could do with an article cut into sentence strips like this?
Well, the other thing they were talking about was actually taking each paragraph, pulling out the main idea, pulling out supporting detail, pulling out a concluding sentence, or a transition sentence, or whatever happens to be. You can break it down piecemeal.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's already said, but combining sentences.
Yep, and combining sentences.
Well, yeah, combining needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind that since I lowered the reading level of this, in the original article, some of the sentences are much more complex sentences. So that might even be an activity, is you could take the original article and either make copies or you could put it up on your screen and show them and say, okay, look how somebody, took this and just, amped the level of the writing a little bit, especially not just with pre-AP, but I think especially with pre-AP, that would be something good to show them that this says the same thing that this does. Why is this better? And get them to recognize sentence structure or diction or the other choices the author made that helped make it a better essay. I didn't really think that this article had a wonderful thesis statement, but I might have, if you do the introductory article, like take out the thesis statement and see if they can still piece it together, and then maybe show them, because another thing that Nutella usually does is each paragraph has a title. You could show them the title for each one of the paragraphs and then say, if you have your introductory paragraph and you know that this is what's going to be talked about in the article, what thesis statement could you write that would pull this together? So you could do that as well. What else? You guys brainstorm in your groups? Any other really good ideas about using something like this to help your kids with revising and editing?
Well, we're doing Super Saturday in a week, and we could easily do an entire segment just on this. Because we're going to have all of our lower level kids, most of our lower level kids, so we'll keep it at this level and just have them just work through and get it, because they're not going to get it as fast as we get it.
Right. No.
And then the struggle is going to be also be like, yo, how could you possibly put that sentence there?
Right. Right. Well, and another thing you could do is, obviously you guys are good at doing this, but if your kids are making mistakes and you have two groups that have a sentence in a different place, you don't have to tell them which one is right. You could say, justify, why do you think that sentence goes there? And you guys, why do you think it goes there? And get them to argue their reasoning behind placing it there.
I think you can have them take a picture of it with their phone too and post it so that you've got, and then you can have the whole class discussion about here's two groups, they've got them in different places, what's the difference? And you've got an archive of how they solved it.
That's true too. And if you wanted to give like a formative grade for them doing this, having them take a picture of it with their phone and sending it to you is a really easy way to do that and kind of keep track. And then you've got their work right there. So that would be a good thing to do. Thanks. Technology. It's great. Anything else? Anything else on this? Well, again, I know that if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this took her forever to put together. It really didn't. And I made 15 bags for each article, and you guys know your class sizes. And if you're going to break your class into groups of 3 or 4, you probably are not going to need 15, copies and bags for your class. So it'll probably take you even less time than it took me. But again, I can definitely, I'll get Kim to put the article in all of its iterations up on Edline, where we've got that staff development folder where you guys can go pull things off of staff development. So you can have this one if you want to use it. And then again, if you find something that you really like and you just think you don't have time to put it together, you can definitely ask your specialist to help you. You can also use any of these activities for editing. Okay? Either by using a student essay that already contains errors and not correcting them when you type it up, or, once again, once I copied this from Newsella, I can edit it however I want. I could have inserted errors into this. I used to do a lot of practicing. The school I came from, all the kids had laptops, and it was really hard to do any sort of editing work on the laptops because it underlines all the mistakes and the kids know where they are right away. So this is one way you could insert a mistake, and it's not going to be a different color. You can change that it's underlined. You can fix all that before you print it out, so you can have mistakes that are not as easily recognizable for the kids. So we've been focusing mostly on revising, but you could definitely use this same article to do editing as well. Oh, we already did that. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have for you. Now, if you guys will do me a favor, in your B article, if you will pull that one sentence, the Black Lives Matter started in, and just hand that to me, and then if you will shuffle all your sentences so they are not in the correct order, and put them back in the separate bags. Put your A article in the A bag and the B article in the B bag. Let me grab these first and then I'll come around. Got that extra sentence for me. It was the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, in 2013.
Yes. Yes. Hold on, I'll be right back.
What they did was that show on TV
Hey.
I think this is B. Because this is our sentence, and this is what started that sentence. Yeah, because remember this is our transition. This is the actual word.
Thank you. And I know on your schedule it said that this session went until 9:30, but we're trying to give you some passing time in between each session. So it is about 9:20. So that is all I have for you guys. So you can run to the bathroom or chill in the hall or make a phone call or whatever you need to do. Awesome.
Oh, this goes with it.
Oh, with B? Yep.
As soon as I walk.